Mr. Truck here with another exciting adventure in the Rocky Mountains. This week we have that new diesel from Ford, the F150. It's a 2018 with a 3-liter V6 diesel. We're pulling the ATVs up here by Winter Park. Going to go riding in the hills where there's not too much snow. This is my youngest son, Eric. How much power do we have in this new Power Stroke V6 3-liter V6?
It's got 250 foot-pounds of torque, or no, 250 horsepower. Right?
You tell me.
And 440 foot-pounds of torque.
Yes, 250 horsepower and 440 torque. So we're going to go out and have some fun. But come join us for the review.
Like we said about this truck, it's got 250 horsepower, 440 foot-pounds of torque with a 10-speed. And this puppy is a Lariat. It is pretty well loaded. It's like a middle of the line. And it is a Super Crew, of course. The MSRP on this is, with the equipment it has, and it has a lot of equipment, it is $68,820. And this puppy has a 1,400 or 1,314 payload. Twins 11,000. I think it's about 11.2 or 3 on a 2-wheel drive. So I like them when they're close. But the miles per gallon is different. And what we've been given about 25.3, just driving all over the place all the time on the highway. No big trailers. But this rascal at 28.3, because the government shows this one and from an EPA rating on a 4-wheel drive at 20 combined, 25 on a highway, 22 in a city. And then on the highway, if it was a 2-wheel drive, you could get 30, but a 4-wheel drive is 5 miles per gallon less. And this has the 6.5-foot bed, so we're able to put a full-size ATV in there. Couldn't close the tailgate, but with this load trail trailer, well, it worked out well because it has a ramp and a longer nose or on a longer tongue. But you know, it's unusual how Ford has programmed this 10-speed transmission. Used tow haul mode, and there's a lot of different configurations for tow haul for going downhill with trailers. And this one, actually, in a downhill, if you're at a heavy trailer, say 8,000 pounds, or at least that's what we tested at 8,700 with TFL, it would downshift twice going down the hill. And that was a pretty severe hill. That was like a 7% grade, 11,000 feet going down to 8,000 feet. And it was really a weird thing to have this thing wrap up as high as it does, because my goodness, it was getting clear up there to almost 4,600 RPM. It bounced around 45. And then when you tapped on the brakes, it would grade shift twice. And I've never seen a truck do that before. I'm used to, you know, what General Motors does on their big Duramax. They defuel it, and then the grade shifts, and so it's just an air pump. You're not like wrapping up the actual engine under power, under fuel. So this was nice. It's an interesting thing. It's kind of hard to get used to, but that's what it did. You know, we're going downhill TFL from 60 miles an hour is where we'd hit the brakes and you'd run it down to 50 and then let it catch up. And when you did that, it shifted twice. And that's, I mean, it's interesting. You always think the engines are going to blow up, but it doesn't. They've got all it calibrated in. So maybe Ford has got this figured out where they don't need a exhaust brake. I always liked an exhaust brake in the mountains because that's where we do a lot of our testing. But, you know, the Titan H XD with that 5-liter Cummins doesn't have an exhaust brake, and I think it really needs one, and so does the EcoDiesel with Ram. I think it needs an exhaust brake. But this is the only truck I've seen that double shifts like that. But that holds the RPM up there at wide open. And this one, originally they were telling me that it gets that maximum torque, the 440 pound-feet of torque at 1,600 RPM, and I'm looking at their file here, and it is showing that it does it at like 1,750 RPM, maximum torque, which is a normal diesel with torque's way down low, under 2,000. So you got all that power without having such high RPM. At least that reminds me of a diesel. Now this other double tap downshifting doesn't remind me of diesel, but it's interesting how they decided to do that. But this has the 355 rear end. It's a locking rear end. It's got that cool running board that pops out, a twin panel moonroof. I love those things. You got a lot of room you can see in the mountains, see all the wildlife running around. And adaptive cruise control. That's one of my favorite options. Even with the trailer, you sit there and just let go of it, set it, and if a car is in front of you, it'll slow down to match that car speed. And if you around that car, it'll take off again. And it actually will stop the trailer if you need to slow down. So it's a wonderful thing to have with trailers. It's a very, very cool way of handling the braking on your trailer. This has a trailer tow package with really cool mirrors, a power telescope out, power fold, the FX4 off-road package, which is also something I would get. It's a tow pack with the skid plates and the different shocks. It has, these are 20-inch wheels, so that's kind of how things are now, the small, skinny sidewalls and these big, giant tires, but that's what it is. Of course, the integrated brake controller. When Ford was the first one to come out with the integrated brake controller, it's worked well. I just wish they would leave the position alone. They keep moving it around. I mean, it's always been on the right side, but it was up higher where you could see it. Now it's down lower below that Trailer Backup Pro system they came out with. But I need to stop complaining about this truck because I do like it. I like it, and since the price is so much lower on this than what it is on a full-size diesel, you can actually pay for this diesel from fuel mileage a little quicker than you could out of the Power Stroke or any of those big diesels. And two, that's kind of another thing I want to bring out on how I view these trucks. We're so used to the big trucks, the Duramaxes, the Power Strokes, and they all give you all this power when you're empty, and they give you a good power when you're loaded. And the Duramax, the Cummins diesel with Ram, Ford's Power Stroke, when they're loaded, they're all similar, very similar on power. But you get used to that kind of acceleration with those big trucks. And then you get in these little trucks, whether it's this new Ford 3-liter diesel, or whether it's the Eco Diesel from Ram, or whether it's that Cummins 5-liter from Titan XD, you have to think about it differently because you don't get that instant power you do from those big boys. And that's because their target, at least for Ford and Ram, is that 30 mile per gallon. So they haven't figured out how to make them super powerful and super efficient on fuel. So you get one or the other. And empty, they do fine. I mean, they accelerate, but loaded, it's not a powerhouse. So you got to remember that if you're on the mountains or if you're trying to cruise up and down these hills, you're going to give yourself a little more room with these newer, smaller diesels. That's taken over the half-ton market. And it's the same way for the midsize, what Chevy has and GM have with the Canyon and the Colorado. I mean, they're great on fuel, but they're not like powerhouses. You're not going to win any drag races with them. So that's what I'm having to get myself to do, is to think a little differently about these new diesels. And on this Ford too, it's we're always trying to find these new trucks running around the country that are being tested by the manufacturers. And it was so easy to find a diesel because they had the little holes in the exhaust at the end, so the air could flow through it, cool it off. But this 150 doesn't have any holes. Doesn't hardly look any different at all than what you see with the regular gas engine. But this puppy is, it's one of the quietest diesels I've ever seen. Actually, it's quieter, not quieter than a lot of gas engines. Excuse me. And you'll hear it up front, but you won't hear it really in the cab or even behind the truck where the exhaust comes out. It's kind of a different thing. You got to get used to that. But yeah, the def tank on this is not really big. It's about typical for its size. It's a 5.6 gallon tank. The diesel engine makes it about 350 pounds heavier. And the def tank is designed to go 500 miles. And then it does go through a limp mode thing. If you run out of fuel, it'll drop you to 50, and then however many minutes it gives you there, then it drops clear under 5 miles an hour. So you always want to keep track of the DEF fluid, diesel exhaust fluid on these. But I've noticed a little bit of turbo lag. There's nothing bad about it, but it's not severe. But you do notice it when you floor it. You got to wait. So it's just like what the Titan XD does. You have to actually kind of feather it into fuel to get some better acceleration with it. They've got a lot of different option packages on these. You know, it's kind of in my line of thinking. I like the XL and XLT. I like the base models, and you got to have a fleet. You got to have a fleet to get those now. So I may have to do some maneuvering to get one of these. Of course, all these newer trucks have lane departure, which drive me nuts, but that's just part of the future. You know, I like to steer my truck, and sometimes the truck's trying to steer me, and then, you know, if it swings you away from the lines in the lane, it doesn't necessarily center you, as some of these vehicles are doing, but I've noticed this one, it just kind of pulls me off the line, and I've got to find the center of the lane again. So I usually shut that off because it drives me insane to be wrestling with the truck to decide who's going to drive it, me or the computer. But I drove this thing 75 miles an hour most of the time. The GVW on it 7100, so I actually loaded it with firewood, loaded it with four-wheelers, loaded it with, you know, some trailers. We went up to mountains a couple times with our ATVs and side by side just to go fun. But this, you know, if you're looking at the dollars and cents of it, this costs about $4,000 more than the 2.7 does. So you got a little bit of premium on the 2.7 EcoBoost to start with. And if you figure the price, what it would cost you over that, it's about $4,000. And if you have the 3.5 EcoBoost and you want the diesel, price-wise on the engine, it's about $2,400 more than that 3.5. So, you know, that's what I've come away from this truck. I'm not impressed with the acceleration, but I like it overall. Now, the sport mode is kind of cool because it's you know, you got sport mode, tow haul mode, all that in the stick shifter there. And when I'm going up the hill, sometimes I'll use sport mode to have a little more acceleration. But when you're coming downhill, if you put it in sport haul mode, you no longer have tow haul mode. So downhill, I put it in tow haul mode. Going uphill, I put it in sport mode. So that's one way to drive them. But you know, it's an interesting truck. It's like all new trucks out there. You've got to kind of pay attention to them. This has a lot of belts on it, belts that you know, drive the cam, the overhead cam. It has belts that drive the fuel pump on the back, and it is ball bearing turbo, and you know, it's got oil, of course, and it's got water cooling in it, so it's all the things the big boys have for that. But anyway, it's been an interesting drive, and I've driven these now about 5-6 times. And I like them. Of course, there's some things I would change. I would put an exhaust brake on it, but maybe I can complain enough they'll do that. But yeah, for now, I'll get some more miles on that tow haul mode, that double shifting thing that I keep yakking about because it's such a surprise and different. And you may be driving down the hill using it, thinking that thing's going to blow up because it's, you know, red line in it. But Ford says it's made to do that, so I guess we'll find out in a couple 100,000 miles if that's all working out for them. So anyway, come watch the rest of the video. So today, too, on our new adventure up on Yankee Hill, we're taking our load trail, load through ATV trailer. This is my favorite ATV trailer. As you can see, it's got a ramp on the front. You fold that ramp down on the tailgate and you drive right on through. Great for motorcycles and anything, because the motorcycles are really bad because a single ramp, you got to run alongside it or jump on a 5-gallon bucket or whatever you got to do. But this one is so quick and easy. And of course, it's got ramps on the sides, so you can load one ATV sideways. And then the big ramp on the back. It's a 14-foot trailer, and we sometimes have a side-by-side, a motorcycle, and an ATV. But it makes things so fast, simple, and easy and safe. Even got cool wheels on this puppy. I put the toolbox on, so I got a place for the jack and all. Hey folks, Mr. Truck here. We are on another adventure, and we're using this 2018 F150 diesel, the new Ford half-ton diesel. And we're using the ATV trailer from Load Trail, and we've got all loaded up. And we're also using this new anti-sway, anti-bounce, great handling weight distributing hitch from Anderson. It's also an adjustable hitch. You can use it for other things, but they've improved it. I've been using these for years, and they have these neoprene bushings that take the bounce out of it, that control the movement as far as the bounce.
And then in this ball on top of the coupler, it is cone shaped and it has a bushing in it. So it slides into this bottom piece at an, you know, as a funnel tapered into that, and that's what controls the sway, because it's pushing down into that on the sleeve. So your trailer actually stays hooked to the ball, and the ball moves with the trailer, which is unusual. Everybody else has spring arms and all those other things, and then you're, you know, the ball swivels. Well, here you don't need to grease your ball because your ball goes with the trailer. So it swivels inside that base in that sleeve, and that most all weight distributing hitches are done by friction. Well, that's the friction part of this. Instead of having some friction on the trunnion arms or the spring arms, it's all done in the hitch itself, which is very remarkable. It's very well made. The changes they made this year, they made this bottom plate which hooks to your chains. When your chains are your sway bars, your trunnion bars, they're now chains with bushings on the end, and that really takes a lot of the jerk out of the trailer. But all that is so fast and easy to put on by using chains. And then this bottom plate here used to be a solid piece that bolted to the bottom of the ball, because it also swings with the trailer. Your chains, this triangle plate, the ball, all that goes with the trailer. Swings with the trailer, so it moves left and right with the trailer. And now this is pivoting. I've bent a few of them, and I just bent them back and didn't have any problem. But Anderson's always constantly trying to improve things, so they actually made a pivot on it. So you can go through dips and not worry about having to, you know, bend the plate. It all will swivel up and down. But this puppy here really takes the sway out of pulling a trailer for these lighter duties. All your half tons need weight distributing hitches. They're all a little bit saggy on the rear end, and especially this Ford here. With a full load, it can squat 3 inches. We want to level out your truck and your trailer so your brakes work right, so all your bearings are being used, all your springs, you know, you're trying to distribute the weight, and you want it all helping you with your load. But this is this new, it's very similar to the old ones. They've got the improvements, different bushing in it, different base and plate that swivels, but it's the fastest one to take off and put on. But anyway, it's a quality product from Anderson Manufacturing. Yeah, long day. We've had a battle through this day. We're up here in the mountains. We've been all over the place with this F250 diesel. Anyway, this truck did really well. We're pulling 3,000 pounds or so, and maybe 1,600 to bed. But it accelerated fine. You know, those kind of weights. This is easy peasy for it. 10-speed automatic in tow home mode. It's now going to shift on you a couple times and be at a higher RPM than what you're used to. So it's different, but it's pretty decent. You know, this has been fixed. We had some problems earlier on the goals on the Ike Gauntlet. Yeah, Democrat something. Democrat Hill, I don't know what it was, but and it was a very good one, and it had a lot of big rocks. It was very challenging. We had you know, the 3 ATV, one side by side, 2 ATVs climbing all over it, and yeah, we got done by dark. So we made it through weather, we made it through gate closings, we made it through grouchy neighbors, and then to park anywhere. And so we had to go up and down I-70 to try to find a trail, and we did. We stuck with it, and we got our riding in. And so this, you know, this 4-wheel drive did very well. We had to back in a few places. It was really slick. And 4-wheel, 2-wheel drive, backing up in some of the muddy places. But that's what you get in springtime. You get a lot of bad weather. You got to be able to be prepared for it. It's a truck to handle it well. I love the 4X package. F4, is it F4X? FX4? Anyway, it's one of those. It has an F and an X and a 4 in it. And they did very well. The family had fun in the sun. Did you stop pushing buttons? One of those back window. Yeah, there's a back window that slides. Frameless. We're here in this 150. Diesel, driving all over the place. See what I'm averaging right now on fuel mileage, because it was getting like 21 and a half. Now we're pulling trailer about 3,000 pounds, another 1,600 pound payload. Let's see if I can figure out what it's getting. Shows it's getting 18.1. But we climbed a lot of hills. We've been all over the place with this thing. Earlier I was averaging over 25, just the truck by itself. I had a hell of a day. We kept coming up with obstacles, but we kept fighting through it, and we managed to find a good trail and get some riding in. This 10-speed pulled out well. It's just not, it's... I think they're going to get the EPA fuel mileage when you're empty. But, there is no EPA for a loaded truck. So, what I'm looking at now is 18.1 miles to the gallon. It's such a quiet diesel. You don't hear it. You don't, you can't even tell it's a diesel if you look at the exhaust. There's no slits in it. Exhaust pipe.
Yeah, I keep forgetting it's a diesel.
Yeah, it's smooth. I mean, a little bit of turbo lag. With a trailer, it's not super fast. I think without a trailer, I think it's very adequate for what you would want most of the time. It's not a racehorse. But, good looking truck. I love this blue. I'll have to figure out what color it is. But, we even ran in the rain. Got the Empire. We had to stop and eat.
Lightning blue.
It's a lightning blue. That's cool. This thing truck is actually rated to tow 11,000 pounds. But you can't do that in the Rockies because you lose, I think it's 5% for every 1,000 feet you go up. So you lose a bunch of power rating and trailer rating. That's what surprises me. They actually will limit the weight of your trailer by how high you drive. So we're all way within those boundaries. But, if you were up this high, which we were, 11,000 feet, you're getting down to about an 8,700 pound trailer is about it. And if you're at sea level, you can pull that 11,000 pound trailer. Go to Kansas, pull the big trailer. That's how that works. But it was a good day. We got through all that with all the obstacles and gates and all that stuff. And rain, and we still got in almost 4 hours of good trail riding on a really good trail. Well, I'm getting you anyway. You got no choice.
I'm following her because I worry about certain things up here.
I don't want to be in the picture.
Oh, you chickens. How you going to be a famous actress if I can't get you on video?
Tons of pickup truck questions, right?
Right. Where do we go for the answers?
We go to the Truck Nuts book.
Because we're truck nuts. And we wrote the book, Truck Nuts. We're nuts about truck, the ultimate guide to buying a truck, or to looking at a truck, or judging a truck. You know, whether it's diesel versus gas, new versus used, what your teenagers should learn about trucks, all that. You do all kinds of cool tests.
Yeah, we do a lot of testing. We do the iGauntlet, world's toughest towing test, up the mountain and down the mountain. We do MPG testing on the highway, loaded with trailers.
Yeah.
We do off-road testing. A lot of that data is in this book as well, and it's a one-stop shop for truck information.
That's true. We test trucks maximum capacity up to the biggest grades you can do on the interstate.
Yep.
So we really put them to the test. And you know, you can get all the facts you can't find anywhere else. We do MPG tests, which you can't find on any sticker anywhere. So, you know, all that stuff that you can't find is in the book.
And you can find the book at trucknutsbook.com. There are links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all the other bookstores as well.
So read about your truck nuts.